If a man has this, he's more likely to fall in love. We're going to dive into this conversation today. And let's face it, dating is a roller coaster of emotions. If you're seeking a fully committed relationship, a life partnership based relationship, you probably feel very frustrating with our current dating environment, partly because we no longer meet people in this organic way of literally growing up with the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Certainly 100 years ago is that way. And a lot has changed since then. And certainly many of you find yourself in the dating app realm to meet people. And it can be rather frustrating because it might feel like you're telemarketing for a relationship. It might feel like you're dialing for dollars. That was a phrase we used in sales. And yet, the most important question you might want to ask yourself and ask for the man that you want to, the man you might invite into your life, is this very question. Is he committed to commitment? Does he have a long-term mating strategy, a long-term mating strategy? And what I mean to say is a man who has a long-term mating strategy, a man who is committed to commitment, he operates completely different than that person who just needs to fill a void, that person that needs someone to complete them, that person who's just in it for the short run, that game player, that user, the love bomber, and so forth. Or those wounded men who are seeking some sort of, unbeknownst to them, therapy. And a lot of people find them in this place versus the men I talk about, which are called the grower builders. If you haven't seen my chart before, I invite you to check this out. This is not a fact. It's merely an opinion. But I believe roughly 20% of the population are users. They seek short-term goals. They're love bombers, players, gold diggers, entitled people, selfish people. They only care about their own needs. And while I say 60% are spenders, they seek companionship, connection, and sex, but they have no direction, uncertainty, fearful, usually have a dysfunctional life. The reason why they're called spenders is that they'll spend time with you as a placeholder. But the last category I'm talking about, that grower builder, they seek long-term commitment. They're emotionally grown up. They have good relationship skills, and they have their act together. And all of you want that person. Or at least those that are in that category of grower builder, you want that person. And by the way, a lot of you that think you're grower builders might find out that you're not really that person. So when I say a man has a long-term mating strategy, he's more likely to fall in love from a real sense of love and not that lust or limerence most people are chasing in the early stage of dating. See, we've been indoctrinated to believe that chemistry equals relationship success. If we have this amazing instant chemistry, something can grow from that. This is why our dating narrative today is all focused on attraction, entertaining each other, romance, and physical connections with the hope of building something deeper. But then why is it that some people go out on 1 or 2 dates, never see a person again? Why is it they date someone for about a month or so and never see them again? See, I think the sweet spot begins after the 90-day period of being with someone. Now, that doesn't guarantee relationship success, but when you consider how many first dates never make it to a second or third date, and how many people get to 10 dates or 10, spend a month together and never form anything beyond that, I would venture to say 990 out of 1,000 barely ever hit that range of 3 months. Now, I'm just making up this number, but go with me for a second. So I think the question begs, how is a man going to shift, not from after the first or second, third date, but how are you going to know that he is committed to commitment? How are you going to know he has a long-term mating strategy? Well, I'm going to give you 10 questions to ask yourself. So pull out a pen and paper. You may want to write this down because these 10 questions might give you some insight into whether or not this man, or yourself, if you're a woman, if you're a man watching this for a woman, if they're capable of leaning into deeper intimacy, deeper connection, deeper love. So This is in no particular order, but you may want to write this down from this vantage point, okay? The first is, have you seen them under stress? Have you seen them under stress? And the way they handle it can make or break a relationship. Think about that. How many times have you seen someone under stress? How do they handle that stress? Many of you know who have followed my channel know I have a lot of stress when I travel. Now I'm aware of this, and because of this, I can regulate my nervous system because I have tools in place to navigate this. Other times I'm in stress is when technology fails me, and believe me, that seems to happen frequently. Not for me today, but just in our environment. I know the other day the internet went out for an entire day, and boy, that was that frustrating to navigate that experience. But how someone handles stress, maybe they, like I talked about earlier, traveling. Maybe they go into a tirade. Maybe they're unable to regulate their emotional system. See, people who are unable to do that struggle in relationship because guess what? Relationships are going to have conflict. Relationships are going to have problems. How someone regulates their nervous system when they're in stressful situations might be directly affect how they handle conflict in relationship. Because the second question I invite you to ask yourself is, have we disagreed about something important? And how did we repair afterwards? Can someone write this down? First one is, have you seen them under stress? Write that number one. Number two, have you disagreed with them about something important? And how did we repair afterwards? I invite you to really pay attention to this, because one of the fundamentals for a successful relationship is how two people repair when they have differences. Because here's the reality, folks. You're never going to find your carbon copy. You're never going to find your clone. That person doesn't exist. You know, ideally, we like to think because of the fantasy of chemistry, the fantasy of all that, that we should just be perfectly aligned, that we should read each other's minds. And yet the reality is, you know, it's like sometimes putting a square peg in a round hole. Doesn't mean you can't find a way to make it work. But learning to navigate disagreements is a fundamental for a successful relationship. So remember I said earlier, getting to this sweet spot of 90 days. Now, a lot of people don't find themselves in conflict in 90 days, partially because we have a kind of a long, drawn out dating process. In fact, quite frankly, I think most people aren't even in a relationship who think they are. They're just in a friends with benefits arrangement. We call these casual relationships. Sometimes we call these situationships. I just think it's friends with benefits, and they just don't even know that's what it is in many cases. You see, the real building of love requires going through stages. One of the first stages you should agree upon in a relationship is the agreement to be monogamous and exclusive with one another. In a lot of casual relationships and situationships, they have no agreements with each other. And so hitting that first stage, certainly by the time that two people are having regular sex, many of you know I say when the penis is inside the vagina, you should start having agreements with one another. In fact, if you haven't read the book, and by the way, all the books I recommend today are listed below in Jonathan Recommends Books. If you haven't read 8 Dates by Doctors John and Julie Gottman, I highly recommend at least reading chapter 1 before you're physically intimate with someone, and ideally you both read it. You know what chapter 1 is? Here, let's open the book. Chapter 1. It's called Lean on Me, Trust and Commitment. You may want to study this. I know many of you are just running around with, well, Jonathan, I'm just supposed to sit my feminine energy, and men are supposed to lead the process because men are such good leaders of the relationship. It's the hierarchy of God, man, and the woman underneath it. And I'm just going to follow that because that works so wonderful. I know that you might have noticed I was being a little bit sarcastic, a little rhetorical, a little bit combative when I said that. Why? Because ladies, particularly the ladies are watching, but men too, you are in charge of your relationship destiny. Don't give that up to another human being. And so studying these things, having an understanding, has a better chance of creating this in relationship than this in relationship. So number 2 was have we disagreed about something important, and how do we repair afterwards? This will build the deep roots of trust that lead to love. Number 3, do I feel emotionally safe telling them the truth about my fears, flaws, and my needs? Let me repeat that. Do I feel emotionally safe enough telling them my truth, my fears, my flaws, my needs? You know, it's interesting. Many of you ladies watch my channel. I do this kind of probably inappropriate joke, but because I think many of you have duct tape on your mouth. You're fearful of speaking up. If you're fearful of speaking up in a relationship, if you can't share your truth about your fears, your flaws, and your needs, then what's the point of being in a romantic relationship with someone if you can't be your genuine self? And you're never going to reach a deeper state of love. He's never going to reach a deeper state of love if you haven't reached a point of emotional safety. And again, when you have a long-term mating strategy, when you're thinking about it beyond the performative nature, beyond the attraction, entertainment, romance, and physical connection, when you're actually saying, I want to build deep roots with someone, when you're committed to commitment, you operate radically different. See, ladies, if you're fearful of challenging a guy, I'm here to say, stop it. You want to challenge him from the very beginning. Now, when I say challenge him, you want to establish your standards. A man who's interested in you, he's willing to meet you at your standards. Quite frankly, I think women should be the leaders of relationship anyway, because they have a better understanding of the emotional needs a relationship depends upon for long-term success. Because ladies, you are no longer, most of the time, you're no longer financially dependent upon a man. Number 4, are they curious about my inner world as they are about my body and my lifestyle? Are they curious about your inner world? Are they curious about your emotions? Do they ask questions? You know, I think it's hugely important that we start shifting the narrative from the provider, protective, nurturer, gatherer protective perspective and start focusing on the real importance of being in a romantic relationship. Is this a place where I feel emotionally safe? Are they curious about my inner world? Do they really care about what's going on the inside with me? That's my invitation for everyone. Number 5, do we have shared values and life goals and openly discuss it? You know, I shared in a video recently, I believe that the 3 questions you should talk about frequently in a new budding relationship during those 90 days and beyond 90 days is, how did we get here? A reflection of your past. Where are we today? Certainly looking at the moment and the things you can do, but ultimately, where do we want to go? Ladies, if you're having regular sex with a guy, you should know where this relationship is going. You should have regular conversations of how you'd like to build a life with someone. We have to stop this drawn out version of years together before we have these conversations. I'm here to say 90 days is the time to shit or get off the pot. Especially if you've been physically intimate with one another. Do we share the same values? Do we have the same life goals? And can we openly discuss these things together? By the way, I know I'm screaming. It's because I'm passionate. I want to get through to you. I want you to stop having duct tape on your mouth. Are you willing to do that with me? Number 6, if there's after the physical chemistry dials down, do we still want them in our lives? Look, there's always a rush of physical chemistry right from the very get-go. Once 2 people settled into a relationship, they may not have sex every single day, although a lot of times for the first year that's the case. But once it dials down, do you still want this person in your life after that lust or limerence phase? These are questions to ask yourself. And when you start going in with these deeper questions, you can start exploring love from more of a heart-centered place. If a man has this, he's committed to commitment, he has a long-term mating strategy, he is open to exploring these questions with you, ultimately having a real dialogue about what love means to you. Write that down. Ask the question, what does love mean to you? Is that something important to you? Find out. By the way, if you ask me what it means to me, I love you means I'm here. You matter. We're important. I've got your back. I'm not going anywhere, and I only want you. I'm here means I'm present. You matter means your feelings matter to the same degree as my feelings matter. We are important means our relationship is a separate entity, and I value this. I've got your back means if you've got a colonoscopy appointment, I'm there for you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm fully committed to this relationship, and I only want you means I only want to ravage your body. I'm not interested in polyamory, swinging, or anything else. I just want you physically. Breathe that in. How's that feel? Share this video with a guy, ladies. Share this video. See how he navigates this conversation. If there's someone you're physically intimate with, start sharing my content with them. See if he relates to it or if he poo-poos it. Number 7, have they shown you consistency in how they treat you, not just how often they see you? Have they shown you consistency on how they treat you versus how often they see you? Treating with respect, with presence, with kindness, with compassion, with empathy, with curiosity. That is the sexy piece. Not if he's 6 foot tall, has a 6-inch penis and 6-pack abs, or 6-figure income, excuse me. There's a lot of dating conversation out there that's centered around that. I thought I'd dive into that. Is he consistent with how he treats you, not how often he sees you? Number 8. Do they feel calmer? Do I feel calmer and more secure as time passes? Do you feel like you're building more trust with the person, or do you feel like you're becoming more anxious and uncertain? If you're starting to feel more anxious, uncertain, that's not a great place to be. So ask yourself, do I feel calmer and more secure as time passes on? That 90-day sweet spot, a guy knows if he's, by the way, a man who's a grower builder, coming back to this, the grower builder, he knows within 90 days if he's in love with someone. He does. The other guys have no fucking clue. But the grower builder, he knows within 90 days whether or not he wants to build a life with someone. And so you should feel secure, calm, instead of anxious or uncertain. Number 9. Have we seen each other in less than romantic settings? The messy house, the family visit, the bad moods. Have we experienced that together? If we've experienced that together and we still want to spend time together, that's certainly a sign of love. And number 10, bump, 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 bump. Do I love, or better yet, do I like who they are? Do I like who they are? Versus who I imagine them to be. Instead of the projection, do you like who they are? You know, if you've answered most of these questions and you're leaning towards emotional safety, consistency, choosing them after the shine wears a bit, you're likely in something real. If most lean towards fantasy, idolization, avoiding harder truth, you're probably still in the infatuation zone. Folks, you know, I say 90 days. The honeymoon period can last much longer than that. But these days, relationships are made or broken very quickly. And 90 days is plenty enough time for that grower builder man to know if he has something real. The man who's committed to commitment, that man who has a long-term mating strategy, he knows whether or not he wants to invest in you. And that man knows if he's committed to commitment and he has a long-term mating strategy, he is more likely to fall in love. And you'll be able to ask these 10 questions with a fair amount of ease, knowing that this relationship has potential. And if you can't get past that, you might have to ask yourself, is this really the right relationship for me? Is this the one that's going to go the distance? Folks, is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below. Schedule a discovery call with me. See if working with a coach is right for you. Join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. Get all the books I recommend. Follow me on social media. Get my dating vows. You're going to want to read that. All listed below. All right, those who know my live format know it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, there's a little chat box in the corner somewhere down there. Write the word question, then post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund. A little dollar sign in the chat box. Goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's a picture of him there. It's my son who passed away over 7 years ago. In his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process Insight Institute and scholarships to coaching as well. And our goal tonight is $50. So I'd really appreciate love. Hey, listen, if 10 of you just donated $5, we'll get there tonight. Just in that link. Also, if you want to join me live, if you want to have a live conversation with right now, I just post a link in the chat box. You click that button, you'll get on the screen with me. Everyone's going to be watching. We can have a little fun. But I'm going to give you some personal coaching on the house. So again, hit that link if you want to jump on the hot seat today. Cookie has a question. What causes an instant chemistry connection spark, emotional resonance, soul recognition? What's the difference between each one? What are the physical symptoms of each? You know, I'm not qualified to answer that question from a physiological standpoint. And I think it's somewhat subjective for each person, Cookie. I mean, it's a great question, but and chemistry in and of itself is not a guarantee of relationship success. So what causes it? Well, a couple things. You could have a immense physical attraction. They're your type. They fit your body type. They fit your looks or whatever. Could be one. They could trigger a childhood wound. Unbeknownst to you, you might have something known as the imago. If you're not familiar with the work of Harvell Hendrix and Helen Hunt, highly recommend reading this. You might be triggered by the imago, which means this is something familiar from your childhood. And so those are just a couple reasons. Your attachment style could be in there. So, I mean, we could do a deeper dive on that if you wanted to work with me, but great question. But I don't think I can differentiate it. You know, and I was thinking about soul recognition because, you know, here's the confusing part. It's an individual feeling, quite frankly. I don't think it's universal. I think each person experiences it in their own unique way. And you got to look at it from your own vantage point. So Cookie, great question. Thank you so much. Let's see. I saw a question from Gretchen here, I think. Okay. Gretchen posts. Let me try this again. So I recently met a man who has mutual friends, and we seem to have some compatibility. We've been commuting through Facebook for about 3 weeks and met face to face in this past. Let's see what else. Let's see. Okay. This past weekend. Here we go. Not a date, but a gig he was doing with my friends, and I attended. We hit it off and seemed really compatible. He messaged me today asking if he wanted to meet him an hour away at a cabin he had rented for a few nights. He has another gig that way. I'm an hour away and, of course, turned it down because, geez, we're not even had official date. I think I know my answer after typing this. Oh, wait. He seems to be rushing towards me too much. I'm wondering what kinds of questions I could ask him to see him what's up. Well, just, I would start with, I appreciate your curiosity towards me. What is inspiring that? I appreciate your curiosity towards me. What is inspiring that? Which will lead to a follow-up question where you can say, hey, just so you know, from a human connection perspective, I'm looking to date. I'm looking to be in a serious relationship. I have a long-term mating strategy. Start sharing your standards and see how he responds to that. Ask him what his goals are regarding romance and relationship. And he'll start revealing. If the guy's in it for the short run, he'll fumble these answers. Okay. Now, he might also do something known as love bombing. He might also express extreme infatuation towards you, which is a sign he's probably only in it for the short run. But I think you could start by leaning in with those questions just to see how he responds. So, Gretchen, great question. Thanks so much. All right, see what's going on. Bella just gave us a $5 super sticker. Thank you for the love. We appreciate you. All right, let's see what other questions we have here. What if you wait here? Oh, here's another one. What if you have strong chemistry and connection with your married boss on the first day of a new job? This really felt once in a lifetime. Never felt something so charged. Man, let me ask you, if you were his wife, how would you feel about this new employee? I think, folks, when we know someone is married and you have fantasy designs, it's time to turn into an emotional grown-up. It's time to be an adult and just recognize that that's just a fantasy. And if you could theoretically ruin someone else's life, shame on you. I'm not suggesting that, Cookie, okay? But boy, I've watched women chase married men. And I think, how fucked is that? To the wife that's in the, why do you want to get in the middle of that? So, I mean, you should know the answer to this question, Cookie. You should. My advice, either shift your feelings or shift your job. And I'd want to get to the root of those feelings. Is it based on lust? Do you honestly believe lusting over someone you barely know is healthy? This is the difference between grown-ups and children. A grown-up knows lusting for someone you barely know is childlike. So that's just my 2 cents on that, Cookie. She goes on to say, I felt such a strong connection. Oh, we already pointed that out. V.A. Simmons, thank you for the $5 super sticker. $5 super sticker. Thank you for the love. We appreciate it. Cookie asks, does this mean he's in an unhappy marriage? Does it matter if it's happy or unhappy? I want you to be a grown-up here, Cookie. Does it matter if it's happy or unhappy? What if it's an unhappy marriage? Are you going to create a fantasy about something with him? And let me tell you something. He's going to have a protracted divorce. It's going to be messy. He'll use you along the way, and he'll most likely discard you. Do you know how rare it is that a man who's cheated on his wife or has designs for someone actually ends up with that person? Very rare. And usually it's an ugly relationship. Okay? This is your big brother, Cookie, talking. Run, run, run. Otherwise, you just want, what does Bella say? Otherwise, you're looking to be a mistress. Is that who you want to be? Bella goes on to say, find a new job. I'm in agreement with Bella. But great questions. Thanks so much. Hey, do you want to join the hot seat and talk about this in a little more detail? We can have a little conversation about that. RN Lynn wants to point out, if he cheats with you, he'll cheat on you. Not always the case, but yeah, that is a probable narrative. You know what I'd like you to do, Cookie? I'd like you to buy my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. I invite you to read this for yourself. Start leaning into self-love in your life. Cookie said, I quit after the first day. I said I had a family emergency. Then I tried asking if I could return. And he said when he told the team I resigned, they looked confused and suspected why. God, this is now getting, by the way, now you're getting into stuff that's outside my area of expertise. Not that this is necessarily my area of expertise to begin with. Flirting with someone that you work with, I'm not a big proponent of that. All right. If you have a question, write the word question and post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All of the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Aslay. I'd appreciate some love. We already got $10 tonight. Our goal is $40 more. Let's see if we can get some love for Connor. I'd appreciate that. All right. What other questions do we have? Oh, I have some questions that came in. Hold on a second, everybody. I have some questions that came in. Where are those questions? Here we go. Bump, 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 bump. Okay. Someone writes in, it feels like the older I get, the smaller the dating pool becomes. How do I stay confident and not lose hope when it feels like there are fewer options every year? You know, this is a great question. I think, you know what? It's actually a good thing. You know, after my divorce, it seemed like I had 500 options the first year, 400 options the next year, 300 options the year after that, 200 options the year after that. You know what? You want actually your pool to shrink. But what you're hoping for is quality in that smaller pool. Quality. And what I mean by quality, I'm talking about someone who's emotionally mature, someone who is aligned with you, somebody who has the same vision, somebody who has healed from their past. You actually want your pool to shrink, but you want it to be with more, we'll call it high quality or people aligned with you. And that requires being aligned with yourself. It's something I teach in my private coaching. I got to tell you, women come to me all the time thinking they know what they want. And quite frankly, I witness them over and over and over making poor choices for themselves. I think when we start operating from a place of clarity, we become a magnetic attractor for what we want. So great question. Thank you so much. Joe Daisy's in the house. You'd be surprised how many make it after the beginning their relationship with a lie. I know 3 different couples. You'd be surprised how many make it after beginning their relationship with a lie. I know 3 different couples. One is a close family member and they've been together 20 years, not promoting cheating. You know, to some degree, we humans all lie to ourselves. So, you know, we're always lying on some perspective. Sometimes we are gaslighting ourselves. So, I understand where Joe Daisy's coming from. Some people fudge on their height on their dating profile. Some people fudge on their age. You know, we fudge in a variety of different ways. Does that mean you're not capable of building a relationship with someone? Absolutely not. But also you have to ask yourself, are you in integrity with yourself? And if you're integrity with yourself and your integrity and you're transparent with your partner, you have a greater chance for relationship success. So great question or great post. Thank you so much. Joe Day says, I joined, but I'm currently out running errands and can't video in. Is it possible to call in without video? Unfortunately, you can't do that. So we'll do that next time, Cookie. Thanks so much for asking that question. All right, what else? Lady Straya says, length of time is not a good indicator for relationships. Yeah. You know, the quality of relationship isn't predicated by the quality of time. It's predicated by the quality of the relationship. I know people that have been together for 25 years and they're miserable. I know people have been together a year and they're incredibly happy. I know in my last relationship, even though it didn't work out, I was very happy for the year and a half we were together. So relationship success is it's an individual thing. And time could be a factor that plays into that, but it's an individual experience. So Lady Straya, thank you so much. All right. If you have a question, write the word question and post the question there after. I'd love to get some comments going right now. Otherwise, we're going to go back to my board here. Here's a question that came in. I want to understand what emotionally healthy men over 50 are really looking for. What should I be focusing on when I'm trying to connect with them? Great question. So, first off, just like the conversation I've talked about for a long time, is are the men who are emotionally available are committed? Look, they're committed to commitment. They have a long-term mating strategy. So, first off, they're not interested about jumping into bed with you on the first, second, or third date. Okay. A man who's genuinely emotionally available, he's not focused on sex the first, second, or third date. That's not to suggest that having sex on the first, second, or third date is a guaranteed of a relationship failure, but I'm telling you, an emotionally available man, he's seeking to build friendship with you. He wants to understand your inner world. He wants to understand who you are. He's curious about your life. He's radically curious about your life. That's how you can differentiate between a man who's serious, particularly over 50. He's not caught up on past relationships. He's not hung up on an ex. Those are some indicators. Okay, so great question. All right, Cookie's back in the house. She goes, thoughts on dating a man 20 years older? I'm 30. Well, do you want to have children? Men in their 50s usually don't want to make babies. Okay, so the first question, my first thought is, do you want to start a family someday? If that's the case, someone who says they want to start a family over 50, no, they want your vagina. And by the way, I know a lot of guys that go get a vasectomy and never, ever tell a woman. I don't want to take that chance. That's just one of the first things. Does it mean that 20 years older is a guarantee success? It's not going to work out? Absolutely not. I mean, I know people, there's a 20-year age difference and it's going to work out, but you're most likely not going to have the same music references. You're not going to have the same film references. You're going to be different physiologically in a relationship. And when you're 50 years old, he's much closer to the end of his life than you are. So those are just some things to factor in. Gigi's in the house. Question. Had a guy reach out on a dating app from the West Coast. I'm an East Coast girl. I explained to him nicely and wished him well. He replied angrily and said, remove, you will fly to a date. Thoughts. Remove. I don't understand the remove word. He angrily said, remove, you will fly to a date. Thoughts. Gigi, I don't know what you mean by remove. It's got me hung up. But if he replied angrily, I would block him right away. I would just move on. Anyone who replies angrily towards you is not a very compassionate, empathetic person. I would say thank you. I wouldn't even say thank you. I'd just say next. Block them and move on. Okay, hope that happened. Oh, okay, here we go. There's an option to put you will fly to a date. I said yes. Oh, okay. Then if you did put I'd fly to a date and you're not willing to meet him, I would probably remove that if that's your genuine, sincere feeling. Or you can say, hey, look, I meant that I'd be willing to date someone who would fly to meet me. But I think he makes a point. The anger part I'm not happy about, but I agree. If you're not willing to fly to someone that you feel a connection, then what was the point of posting that on your dating profile? Gigi, tell me what you think about what I just shared. I'd be curious to hear what you have to say. Okay. But that's good. I mean, he makes a valid point. If you're saying, what did you say again? Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So anyways, that's my thought, Gigi. So thanks for sharing that. Joe Daisy comes back to say, Jonathan, my close family member is a 20-year relationship, his happy one, and it started out with cheating. Unfortunately, different, I know. I mean, there's always the exception to the rule, but and I've heard other stories as well. I would just say you're gambling. God, it's hard enough to build a relationship with people who are available versus those that are unavailable, and you believe it to be happy, but and again, there's always exceptions to the rule, just like a broken clock. So I appreciate you sharing it, but I'm just not a big advocate for it. Gigi says there's no option for how far you'd fly. Well, Gigi, here's what you can do. You can write in your dating profile, I know it says I'd fly to a date and I'm willing to fly no more than 1 hour. Okay. You can just simply write it in your essay then if you're going to keep that option. But I mean, otherwise take it down. Okay. I get West Coast and East Coast. Why wasn't he willing to fly to you? Anyway, those are just my rough thoughts. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Folks, if you have a question, Joe Daisy wants to go on to say, definitely not promoting being a cheater in a relationship. I'm in a full agreement. I'm not promoting that. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we have here. Do you have a question? Come on, post it. Well, I'll just pull up a question from my Q&A board I have here. Jonathan, I keep meeting men who say they want a relationship but act emotionally unavailable. Why does it feel like everyone I meet is afraid of intimacy? This is a great question. We are living in a population of emotionally wounded people, whether they have childhood wounds or adult traumas, particularly in the area of love that went south. I think the average person today has 3 to 5, relationships lasting 3 months or longer. In other words, and when I say a relationship, not a situationship, but 3 to 5 serious relationships. And quite frankly, if people aren't healing from each relationship, they might be emotionally wounded. They might be emotionally stunted. This is true for women as well as men, ladies. I know so many women who are emotionally wounded, emotionally stunted. And so I can understand. This is why you got to ask radical, honest questions, to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to be transparent early on. Something I teach in my private coaching is to go beyond the surface. In fact, one of the reasons why I recommend reading the book 8 Dates by Doctors John and Julie Gottman, again, all the books I recommend are listed below, is so you can have the kind of question. Oh, by the way, here's a book you should read. Are You the One for Me by Barbara Giangelis, Knowing Who's Right and Avoiding Who's Wrong. I highly recommend reading this book. This book is 20 years old, but it's still gold, folks. It is gold. It'll change your life. Instead of operating from, choosing emotionally unavailable people, dig deep right from the very beginning. Go to the deep end of the pool. I'd rather fail quickly than drag something out for 6 months and find out that they're emotionally unavailable. So great question. Thank you so much for that. All right. Who do we have in the chat box here? Oh, Christina. Somehow we're on the conversation of cheating. If someone is willing to cheat on you, they will probably be willing to cheat with you. They probably cheat on you. I agree. Bella's in the house. Is monogamy dead now? Seems like a lot promote a lifestyle, aka swinging. Is that the dating problem? This is what I'm about to say is a judgment, so please forgive me, Bella. But I do believe that I think the ease of sex, I think it took me a month or two before I had sex with my now ex-wife. This was back in the 1990s. I think the ease of sex, and partially because the ease of connecting with people through dating sites means it's just easy. Bella says, go ahead and judge away. I think, and this is going to sound like a judgment to women, but I think you've made it easy for men to have sex. So it helps, promotes just focusing on sex instead of building a deep connection. There's a saying, women are the gatekeepers of sex, and men are the gatekeepers of commitment. Well, I think you should be the gatekeeper of a commitment, and until you get some level of agreement, don't have sex with them. I think if all women band together and wore a chastity belt for 3 months, Might solve the problem. But again, women are free to do what they choose to do. I'm not here. Again, I said this was a judgment. But I do believe on some level, when we stop leading with lust and limerence and we start leading with heart, we can have greater connections with people. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? I want to hear what you have to say. Post a comment below. Do them. Cookie comes back and says, I'm not married and feel so behind. LOL at 30. My parents kept pressuring me to settle down because all my cousins are married and having kids. How can I compare myself to others? How can I not? How can I not compare myself to others? By the way, comparison is one of the most dangerous human behaviors. When you begin to compare yourself to others versus who you are on the inside, you're setting yourself up for emotional discomfort. You should never compare yourself to another human being. You should never live up to what somebody says you should do. More pain and anguish comes from comparisons than anything else in life. So what if your cousins are married and have kids? What happens when they go through a divorce in a few years? Please forgive me. I'm being a little bit crass there. But, I'd rather you find the right man and not a married man. And by the way, does the married man have children, the one you work with? Boy, you would be stepping into a nightmare circumstance. Cookie laughs with lots of hearts. Okay, Jane Spitfire. Oh, we haven't seen you in a while, Jane. Who goes to prostitution business more, men or women? Who are addicted to porn, men or women? Men are more into sex than females. I mean, to some degree, there's truth to that. So yes, men are more into porn, men are more into prostitutes. So women, wear your chastity belts. Set them straight. Cookie goes on to say, yes, he has 2 children. Why do you want to get involved with a married man who has a couple kids? Lady Sarada, Jonathan, you're being realistic. 50% of marriages fail. Yeah. And by the way, second and third marriages end at a higher rate. By the way, Jane, thanks for being on. I appreciate you. All right. Let's see what we got here. If you have a question. Oh, Gigi wants to point out to Cookie. Compare yourself to me. I'm 68, unmarried and childless. At least you're not me. Yeah, there's a 38-year age gap. You have plenty of years. Well, not plenty of years, but if you're objective, not follow your lower chakra, follow your heart and not your ego, you have a great chance to attracting someone who could be a good partner for you. Well, let's hope that for you. Sherry's in the house. How many men should I be meeting if they're all situationships or not emotionally available? I would meet none of them. How many men should I be meeting if they're all none of them? Don't meet any of them. Why do you want to meet any of them? Tell me that. Alexandra's in the house. What are your thoughts on dating a separated and soon-to-be divorced man? Most sites tell you to avoid it at all costs. But is it a case they need to date around for a while and so can't commit? Okay, Alexandra, I want to tell you a story. I was about 5 months separated from my wife. On the dating app, I put divorced. And I connected with a woman and she wrote me a message and said, how long you been divorced? And I said, well, actually, I've only been separated 5 months. And she wrote me back, reach out to me after 2 years after your divorce and after you've had 1 to 2 transition relationships. And I said, no, I'm ready. I'm so ready to be in a relationship. And she said, well, thank you. No, thank you. Well, sure enough, 3 months later, I met a fantastic woman. We dated for about 3 months, and then I hit my threshold of emotional availability, and I ended the relationship. Now, thankfully, we had a very conscious uncoupling, and she knew in the beginning I wasn't ready. And I realized that was the first of several transition relationships. It took me years before I had done the inner work to heal from my wounds, to heal from my marriage, to be prepared, to be committed to commitment. So, yeah, it takes several years to unravel the tapestry of your life with another human being and then be able to build roots of trust with someone new. So, I mean, you're rolling the dice with that one. And if you're trying to get double sixes, you have a better chance of getting snake eyes, is what I'm about to tell you. Okay. So, thanks for that question. I really appreciate it, Alexandra. Hey, folks, I've had a lot of fun tonight. Did you get value out of this conversation? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Also, if you want to connect with me directly, schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. Check out all the links I have below to follow me on social media and all that good stuff. Alexandra says hi. All right. Thank you so much, Alexandra. All right, folks, we're going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Barrick of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow. Give it or them a hug of love because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. Lady Satya says, good show tonight. Jane Spitfire says, good advice. Thank you. Alexandra again says, thank you so much. Power of Chi says I should interview James Sexton, famous divorce attorney this year. I would love to interview him. Cookie goes on to say, yes, thank you so much. I love your videos and wish you went live more often. I'm going to go back to being live a little bit more often, Cookie. So thanks so much. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap up. Wishing you all. Oh, and thanks also to VI Simmons for the $5 super sticker and Bella for the $5 super sticker. Thank you for the love. We appreciate so much. Wishing you all super duper wonderful evening. Be well. Thanks. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye.